What do you like about board games? Or any kind of games like that you play around a table? What do you like about them? What makes them engaging? Anybody? Winning. Ooh, okay. Okay, I'm staying away from your table tonight. Others, what's about?
Camaraderie with those who are playing with you.
Yes, camaraderie, of course, which is really the ultimate point. What else? Makes you think. It exercises the mind, yes? Yeah, exactly. It's good for our brains, really. Keeps us sharp. What else?
Good for a laugh.
Sometimes good for a laugh. Exactly. And what's behind the laugh? What is it that makes you laugh? Yeah?
Playing senior moments.
Senior, yes.
Board game.
Ah,
Definitely makes you laugh.
oh, okay.
Or when you're playing with a 6-year-old and there's an answer is the best answer.
Ah, the 6-year-old's answer is the best. I love it when little kids you play a board game with them and they just change the rules. They decide the rules are going to be their rules, which are hard to comprehend. I love the surprise element that comes with that, playing games with my grandchildren. Others. There's always an element of surprise, isn't there? Right? You got cards, and you can't see what the other person's cards are. So there's mystery, and there's allure, and there's surprise involved, yes? And that's, I think, a big part of what keeps us engaged with games. You don't know what the other person's going to do. What move is that person going to do on the chessboard? You don't know. You can't know that. You can anticipate, sharpen your mind with thoughts of anticipation and strategy, but you just don't know. You don't know. Years ago, my stepdaughter had an unusual boyfriend for a couple of years there. His name was David Blaine, and he was a magician. He was famous for doing magic on the streets of New York. Videos of him just doing his thing randomly and blowing the minds of people, which was pretty fun to watch. Anyway, when I met him, I don't watch TV hardly. I didn't know who he was, all right? I just knew he was a magician by trade, and that's all. I didn't know what a big deal he was. Anyway, he winds up sitting in our living room, just he and I, while my wife and my stepdaughter were off doing something else. So it's just the two of us, and I'm like, oh, okay, David, what do? You try to make conversation with the guy, and he goes, he's talking, and I go, well, maybe you could do something for, show me what you do, right? And so he does this card, he pulls out a deck of cards, and they're doing a card trick, and then at one point, I don't exactly know how we got to this point, but at one point he says, what happened to the ace of spades? And I go, you're right. I don't know what happened to the ace. Where is the ace of spades? It's gone. And he goes, well, where do you think it might be? And I go, I look through the cards. I can't find the ace of spades. And then he says, did you look in your sock? And there was the ace of spades in my sock. And I was just completely blown away. Like, how did the ace of spades get into my sock? Wow.
Hypnosis.
Well, actually, yes. Now, what's sideline here, what's hilarious about his street magic thing is that different ethnic communities respond in different ways to his tricks. So white people like myself go, how did he do that? That's a trick. What was the trick? How did he do that? And he'd be in Chinatown in New York City and he'd do the trick and they would just start laughing. They just thought it was ha ha ha, funny. Then he'd do it in the black community and the black people would go, that ain't right. That ain't right. That's some kind of devilment. That's no good. That's bad. Just different cultural responses because of culture, to these. So that was part of the surprise, too, of what he does, is just the cultural responses that you get. These are generalizations, but something to it. Anyway, so I had the typical white person response, like, how do you do that? Anyway, surprise, right? The surprise of that card trick, and of card games in general, and other games as well. So today's sermon is entitled, The Game of Parables, because there's something game-like, if you will, about Jesus' parables. They're full of surprises, they're full of mysteries, and they are brain teasers and soul teasers, right? Now, you might ask, why did Jesus speak in parables? Good question. Let's see here. I'm now reading from the parables as they are recorded in the Gospel of Thomas. Okay, so you have the 4 Gospels of the New Testament, then you have the Gospels that were left out, right? The Gnostic texts of early Christianity, which were in wide distribution, widely used and read in the early church, until the Catholic Church decided they were heresy and threw them out and destroyed them, right? Until they were found in 1948 in a cave. And these texts were discovered, some of them in their entirety, including the Gospel of Thomas. And that was a revolution in biblical studies. So the Gospel of Thomas is full, it consists of nothing but Jesus' aphorisms, sayings, and parables. There's no narrative, no story here at all in this Gospel. And a bunch of these aphorisms, sayings, and parables show up in the Gospels that we read in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now, what is striking is that in the Gospels, the 4 Gospels in our Bible, some of the parables that Jesus tells have explanations, right? Which Jesus gave to his disciples. He would utter a parable and then privately explain to his disciples what they meant. Some of them, not all of them, he did this. But in the Gospel of Thomas, which is a tradition that probably predates Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, no explanation. Okay? No explanation. So this is the Gnostic tradition, which is about mysteries. In the biblical era, in the Greek culture, there were the mystery cults. And in order to participate in these cults, you had to be initiated into the mysteries. And there's literature that we still have extant from that era. But the thing that's missing, we can read some of the mysteries, but what we don't know are the explanations of the Greek mystery cults, because you had to be initiated privately in order to receive the necessary knowledge or gnosis to interpret them or understand them. So this gospel and the parables in the Gospels we have in the New Testament reflect that tradition of Gnostic mysteries, and they're part of our tradition. So the parables are game-like in this way, this manner of surprise, of brain teasers, etc. One way to think about the parables is in the Buddhist understanding of koans, K-O-A-N. A koan is a statement like, can you hear the sound of one hand clapping, right? Can you? It's a weird statement. And the point of it in Zen Buddhism, the point of these koans, or what we might think of as nonsense phrases, is to snap us out of our everyday way of thinking and experiencing and open ourselves to a deeper level of experience. To just break open, snap open our usual consciousness. It's like playing a David Blaine trick on yourself, right? To get you out of your usual way of thinking. So the parables have that, many of them have that koan kind of quality to them. And so they're kind of perfect for meditation and contemplation. You read a parable and you just sit with it. And as we do here in church, we have lectio and we have meditatio. Meditatio, you just let the parable sink in and see what it does, see what happens, see where it leads you, see where it takes you. Who knows where it's going to take you? It's that element of surprise and of mystery. So here we go. The parables according to the Gospel of Thomas. Okay. Oh, and this is kind of an introduction to the parables in Thomas. Jesus said, his disciples asked him, "Do you want us to fast? How should we pray? Should we give to charity? What diet should we observe?" So they're asking him specific questions about what they're supposed to do. What's his answer? He says, "Don't lie and don't do what you hate, because all things are disclosed before heaven. After all, there is nothing hidden that won't be revealed, and there is nothing covered up that will remain undisclosed." Was that a satisfying answer to their highly specific questions? No. No, instead of giving an answer to the actual questions that they asked, he throws a monkey wrench into their heads, right? And just teases them. It's a kind of a teaser. All things will be disclosed. Nothing that's hidden won't be revealed. Nothing covered up will remain undisclosed. Go deeper. Go deeper than questions about the rules. Go deeper. Here we go. The human one, the Son of Man, also interpreted, is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovered a fine, large fish. He threw all the little fish back into the sea and easily chose the big fish. Anyone here with 2 good ears had better listen. Okay, what do you do with that? Come on, we're all playing the game of parables here, so who wants to be the first player? What does that parable do for you or do to you? How does it work on you from within? When you cast the net of your consciousness into your consciousness, what comes out? What comes up? Anybody? You don't have to answer if you... Yes, Calvin. Okay, we can count on you, Calvin.
Jesus tells us to follow the California state law for partnership, where we have established size limits on fish, and if the fish is not big enough, then you throw it back so it can grow larger. However, there is the sturgeon, and the sturgeon you have to throw back if it's big.
Ah.
Because they're the ones that are reproducing.
Oh. So you have to throw the little fish, according to California state fish and game law, you have to throw the little fish back in, except for sturgeon, because when they're big, they're about to make eggs. Okay.
That clarified.
We're clear about that. Any other mysterious inner stuff bubble up here?
So bigger might be better?
Bigger might be better.
Can you just read it again?
Yes. So it is. Yes, please. Dave.
Rid yourself of the noise so you can get
rid yourself of the noise so you can get to the truth. Thank you very much. That's pretty interesting interpretation. I'll read it again, though. The human one, which is a translation for the Son of Man, is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovered a fine large fish. He threw all the little fish back into the sea and easily chose the large fish. Anyone with 2 good ears had better listen. I only have 1 good ear, so I can only understand half of this.
Because that, I can now take that
Okay.
and make for us philosophize on that, but it didn't come to me.
Yes, yes. Well, look within.
Professor's wisdom.
Look within. Look within at the, there's a lot of layers to this, right? The fish are underwater in the mysterious realm below the surface of things, right? And this comes up over and over again in the Gospels, right? Jesus walking on water, yeah? The master of the unconscious dimension. Mastery of the unconscious dimension. So the fisherman delves into the unconscious dimension, the spiritual depths. That's where I go with it. The sower went out, took a handful of seeds, and scattered them. Some fell on the road, and the birds came and gathered them. Others fell on rock, and they didn't take root in the soil, and they didn't produce heads of grain. Others fell on thorns, and they choked the seeds, and worms ate them. And others fell on good soil, and it produced a good crop. It yielded 60 per measure and 120 per measure. A lot, in other words. Okay, game players of the game of parables. Where do you go with that one? Where does that take you? Yes, please. You reap what you sow. But dang, you better sow in the right spot or, Yeah?
To me, that's the, you have to find the heart that's open to the message.
You got to find a heart that's open to the message.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to force something on somebody, and it's very pertinent right now. In the cycle that we're in, right? Trying to have conversation with people, and in some cases, no matter what you say,
Right.
going nowhere. There's potentially those that are willing to have conversation.
Yes. Yes. This is an era, a period of time right now that we're in where this is very apropos, isn't it? But how do we share a message with people that may or may not be willing to hear it? Yes, please, Joan.
The receiver has to be ready.
Yeah, the receiver has to be ready. Yes. Yes, please, Susan.
For me, it's like be mindful of where you spend your efforts and energy.
Yeah, be mindful of where you spend your efforts and energy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, you step back from this parable and you realize it's like, seeds are mysterious. Seeds are mysterious. A little thing out of which big things grow. It's miraculous. It's amazing. It's its own mystery, its own hidden thing, right? You hide a seed in the ground, and then something happens down there that you can't see, and then, yes, Susan.
Think of churches like ours
Yes.
that are very small.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Ooh.
We do wonderful things.
Stuff sprouts out of us.
It grows.
Our little church is like a seed out of which beautiful things sprout. Amen on that. Yes, Joan.
A little story about this. The tomato plants in the garden have come back to life.
Yeah.
They looked all brown and dead, and I was ready to pull them up, but the weather was too hot for me to come out and work. So I let it go, and then I let it go another week, and then I let it go. And now it's cool enough, and I figured, well, maybe now I can get some volunteers
Go figure. The tomato.
That all came from one seed that was left over from last year. It was a
Wow.
volunteer.
Our tomato plants in the back have come back to life mysteriously and secretly while we were not paying attention. Yes, Carla.
I was just at somebody's house and their tomato plant is having a second rebirth as well.
Others are going through this with their tomatoes.
The universe is providing some energy.
Oh, something's up.
Ever since Kamala Harris joined the race.
Ever since Kamala joined the presidential race, the tomatoes have done better. It's an augur, it's a sign.
This always reminds me of a plant I had, and it was dying. There was nothing I could do. It just was awful. So I cut it, it was in a pot, I cut it off right at the soil level, and I put it on a stairway going down to the basement. Yeah, a basement, you don't point it, don't think. And I did not water it, and I left it. And about a year later, I rarely went down there. I was going down and I looked and oh my God, it's green. It had sprouted and it started to grow again in the dark with no water.
An abandoned plant that came back to life in a basement
Yeah.
after a long time.
So I put it back on.
Mysterious. Okay. Another little hint about what the parables are all about from the Gospel of Thomas. Jesus said, I will give you what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no hand has touched, what has not arisen in the human heart. Ooh, what's going to bubble up next? What are we going to receive next? Then, of course, this most famous of all the parables, I think, the mustard seed. Well, the disciples said to Jesus, tell us what the kingdom of heaven is like. And he said to them, it is like a mustard seed, the smallest of seeds, but when it falls on prepared soil, it produces a large branch and becomes a shelter for the birds of the sky. He was actually referring there to a passage in the Hebrew Scriptures in the prophet Ezekiel, where he talks about a cypress tree that's cut at the top, and the top part is planted, and then it grows and becomes a wonderful tree as a sign of messianic hope. So there's a reference here that the people who heard this would have understood in that time. What happens when you plant that mustard seed in your heart and soul? What grows inside of you as you plant this parable inside yourselves? Anybody? Yes. Yes, that's why I'm repeating what you say. Yes. Others. Love is the seed and the fruit. Yeah. And the birds that land in the branches. That's one way to look at it, but there are many other ways, right? Many other ways to interpret this wonderful passage. Well, we just had a teaser there of the game of parables. There's more, but we'll stick with this little selection now. May the mustard seed grow within you now and until our next go-round with parables. Amen.